The grand chamber of Nexus Station floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light, where the greatest powers of the galaxy gathered. Inside, representatives from 200 species sat in their designated seats, speaking through translators about trade routes and cultural disputes. The air hummed with a dozen different breathing apparatuses and the soft glow of holographic displays. Counselor Verathon of the Meridian Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes and looked across the chamber. His 4 eyes fixed on one particular seat that had remained empty for 50 years. The nameplate still read, Earth, Humanity, in standard galactic script. I see our human friends have once again declined to grace us with their presence, Verathon announced, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Several council members chittered and buzzed in amusement. Ambassador Zhara of the Lirani Collective, a peaceful species with pale blue skin and large dark eyes, spoke up from her seat. Perhaps we should show more patience. Humanity is still adjusting to galactic society. Adjusting, barked Krotak, the reptilian representative from the Zephrani coalition. It has been 50 years since first contact, 50 years since they sent their ambassador to the first meeting and then vanished. This is not adjustment. This is cowardice. Verathon nodded in agreement. The humans attended one meeting. One. Their ambassador Park stood at that very seat, listened to our welcome, made polite excuses about needing time for internal reorganization, and never returned. Not once, in 247 sessions. The council chamber filled with the sounds of agreement from dozens of species. Earth had become something of a joke among the galactic community. The primitive world that got invited to the table and then ran away. Zhara tried again. Their initial scans showed a species with potential. Perhaps they face challenges we do not understand. The only challenge they face is their own inadequacy, Verathon said dismissively. I propose we remove them from the registry entirely. Let them rot in their little corner of space. Before the vote could be called, War Master Draktar of the Korthak Dominion stood. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armored plates that had evolved on a brutal high-gravity world. His species had only joined the council 20 years ago, but they had made their presence known. Why do we waste time discussing absent primitives when real matters demand our attention? Draktar's voice rumbled through the chamber like thunder. Verathon gestured for him to continue. 15 systems along the outer rim are currently undefended. Their inhabitants have petitioned this council for protection 3 times. 3 times you have debated and done nothing. Draktar's eyes swept across the chamber. The Korthak Dominion grows tired of this council's endless talk. A small mammalian delegate from one of the rim worlds stood up, trembling. Please, honored council. The Korthak fleets gather near our borders. We have seen their ships. We cannot defend ourselves. We need help. Verathon waved a dismissive hand. We have discussed this matter extensively. Military intervention requires careful consideration. We cannot simply deploy forces every time someone feels threatened. We have 50 survey ships, the small delegate pleaded. No weapons. No shields. If the Dominion attacks, we will be helpless. Draktar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then perhaps you should consider whose protection to seek more carefully. Giara stood, her voice sharp. Is that a threat, War Master? It is a statement of fact. Draktar replied calmly. This council has debated trade agreements and cultural exchange programs for decades, while allowing its military capabilities to wither. The Meridian Empire once commanded a fleet of 5,000 ships. How many do you have now, Counselor Verathon? The chamber went quiet. Everyone knew the answer. The Meridian fleet existed mostly in historical records and propaganda. Perhaps 300 ships remained operational, and most of those were outdated. Verathon's face flushed with anger. The Meridian Empire maintained sufficient forces for defense, but not for protecting others, Draktar observed. which is why these rim worlds have no hope. He sat down. His point made, the small delegate looked around desperately, but no one met their eyes. Finally, they sat down, defeated. Ja'ara felt her heart sink. She had served on this council for 30 years and watched it slowly decay from a union of mutual protection into a social club where nothing ever got decided. Species maintained tiny defense forces, assuming the collective would protect them if needed. But that collective strength had never actually been tested. Until now. The session dragged on for another 6 hours. They debated regulations for asteroid mining. They discussed standardized translation protocols. They argued about whether species from high-gravity worlds deserved special accommodations in council facilities. Not once did they address the desperate pleas from the rim worlds. When the session finally ended, Ja'ara made her way to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, she could see the stars stretching out in every direction. Somewhere out there was Earth, the planet that had heard the galaxy's invitation and decided to stay home. A young Lirani officer named Sujin Choi approached her. Sujin was special, the child of a human father and Lirani mother who had met during the early cultural exchange programs. She served as a liaison officer, one of the few people who maintained regular contact with human outposts. "Ambassador, you defended them again," Sujin said quietly. "Someone should," Ja'ara replied. "Though I wonder sometimes, if Verathon is right, why would they ignore us so completely?" Sujin looked out at the stars. "My father used to say, humanity learned long ago that when powerful people gather to talk, the talking often matters less than what happens when everyone goes home." Wise words, but cynical. Maybe. Or maybe just realistic. Sujin hesitated. "I receive reports from the Sol system sometimes. Through family connections. The humans are not idle, Ambassador." "What do you mean?" "I mean they are building something. I do not know what exactly. But every report shows more construction, more industry, more organization. Whatever they are doing, they have been doing it for 50 years without pause." Ja'ara considered this. Perhaps they are simply developing their own world. Nothing sinister in that. Perhaps. Sujin did not sound convinced. Back in the council chamber, Verathon stood alone, looking at Earth's empty seat. In truth, he did not think about the humans much. They were irrelevant. A footnote in galactic politics. The real concern was the Korthak and their growing aggression. The Meridian Empire had grown comfortable over centuries of peace. Their military had become ceremonial, more focused on parades than combat readiness. And now a species of warriors had joined the council and was testing boundaries. Verathon knew what others did not. The Meridian fleet had fewer than 200 operational ships. The rest were museum pieces, or had been sold off decades ago to fund social programs. If the Korthak decided to attack, the council would have no answer. He looked at Earth's nameplate one more time and laughed bitterly. At least the humans had been smart enough to stay away from this mess. When the storm came, they would be safe in their distant corner of space, untouched by galactic politics. The empty seat seemed to mock him in the dim light. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance. And in one small yellow star system, humanity continued their work. 3 months passed. And Counselor Verathon received the message he had been dreading. 5 rim world systems had gone dark simultaneously. No communications. No distress signals. Just silence. Within hours, refugee ships began arriving at nearby stations. The survivors told the same story. Korthak warships had appeared without warning, overwhelming the minimal defense forces in minutes. The Dominion had planted their flags and declared the systems under their protection. The council convened an emergency session. The chamber buzzed with panic and angry voices. Representatives shouted over each other, while translation algorithms struggled to keep up. War Master Draktar entered the chamber with confident steps and took his seat calmly. He looked completely unbothered by the chaos around him. Verathon slammed his hand on the podium, calling for order. War Master Draktar. The Korthak Dominion has launched unprovoked attacks on 5 sovereign systems. This council demands an immediate explanation. Draktar stood slowly, his massive frame casting shadows across nearby seats. Unprovoked? These systems requested protection. When this council refused to provide it, they accepted our offer instead. We have harmed no one. We have protected the helpless. You call military invasion protection? Krotok hissed. We have reports of orbital bombardments. We destroyed abandoned military installations to prevent their misuse. Draktar replied smoothly. All civilian populations are unharmed and living under our benevolent oversight. Ja'ara stood up, her voice shaking with anger. You mean living under occupation? This is conquest dressed in pleasant words. Call it what you wish, Draktar said. The facts remain. These worlds needed defenders. We answered their call. If this council had acted 3 months ago, perhaps the situation would be different. But you chose endless debate over action. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some supported immediate military response. Others called for economic sanctions. A few suggested negotiations. Nothing was decided. After 6 hours of circular debate, Virathon called a recess. In a private chamber, the real discussion began among the council's most powerful members. We need to show strength, Krotok insisted. If we do nothing, the Korthak will take everything. With what forces? Virathon asked bitterly. The Zephrani coalition has what? 80 ships? The Meridian Empire can field perhaps 200. If we strip every defensive post, do you think that will intimidate the Dominion? A Velen representative, a floating being of organized gas, pulsed with distress. Our intelligence suggests the Korthak have mobilized over 800 warships. They have been building their fleet since they joined the council. The room went silent. 800 ships. The number was staggering. Ja'ara accessed her datapad and pulled up reports. It is worse than that. Our analysts believe this is just the first wave. Korthak construction facilities are operating at full capacity. They are building more ships every month. Then we are finished, someone whispered. No. Virathon stood up straight, forcing confidence into his voice he did not feel. We pool all available military assets. Every ship, every species. We create a defensive line they cannot cross. Over the next week, the council worked frantically to gather forces. The Meridian Empire committed 187 operational warships. Their entire remaining fleet. The Zephrani added 73. The Velens contributed 42. Dozens of smaller species added what they could. Even converted civilian vessels with hastily mounted weapons. The final count was 284 ships. It was pathetic compared to the Korthak Armada. But it was everything they had. Admiral Vera Kos of the Meridian Navy was given command of the defensive fleet. He was old, a veteran of the last major conflict over a century ago. He studied the force composition and shook his head grimly. Half these ships should be in museums, he told Varathon privately. The other half are civilian transports pretending to be warships. Against 800 Korthak vessels, we will last perhaps an hour. Then we make that hour count, Virathon replied. We show the galaxy that the Council will not surrender without a fight. During one planning session, a young aide suggested contacting Earth. The room fell silent. The humans? Krotok scoffed. They could not be bothered to attend a single council meeting in 50 years. You think they will risk their ships for us? Ja'ara considered it carefully. Perhaps not. But Lieutenant Choi has maintained some contacts with their outposts. We could send a message. Officially. Request assistance. A waste of time, Varathon said. But he looked desperate enough to try anything. Very well. Send the message. For the record, if nothing else, when historians write about this disaster, let them note we asked everyone for help. Lieutenant Sujin Choi volunteered to carry the message personally. She took a fast courier ship and set course for the Sol system. 2 weeks of travel at maximum speed. While she was gone, the Korthak made their move. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet departing from Dominion space. 800 warships moving in perfect formation, heading directly for the Threshold system, the last major defensive point before reaching the Council's core worlds. Draktar sent a message to the Council, broadcast openly so all species could hear it. His voice was calm and almost friendly. Honored Council members, the Korthak Dominion is advancing to secure additional systems in need of protection. We advise all vessels to withdraw from the Threshold system within 48 hours. Any ships remaining will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. We do not wish violence, but we will not be denied. ATS. It was a declaration of war wrapped in diplomatic language. Admiral Veracruz gathered the defensive fleet at Threshold. The ships took up positions around the system's 2 inhabited planets, creating overlapping fields of fire as best they could. They had 36 hours until the Korthak arrived. The waiting was terrible. Crew members checked and rechecked their systems. Captains sent messages home to their families. Everyone knew what was coming. Zira joined the fleet aboard the Meridian flagship. She had no military training, but she refused to wait safely behind the lines while others fought. If this was the end, she would face it with them. On the bridge, she stood next to Admiral Veracruz and watched the tactical displays. "Do we have any chance?" she asked quietly. The old admiral smiled sadly. "There is always a chance, Ambassador. A very small one. Perhaps the Korthak will be overconfident. Perhaps we will get lucky. Perhaps a miracle will occur. I am not fond of relying on miracles. Neither am I. But sometimes that is all we have." 20 hours before the Korthak were scheduled to arrive, Sujin's courier ship returned. She had traveled faster than expected. Pushing her engines beyond safe limits, she sent an urgent message to the fleet. "I reached Earth. I delivered the message." They listened. Varathon felt a flicker of hope. "Will they send ships?" There was a long pause before Sujin answered. "Admiral Kwan told me to give you coordinates and a timeline." She said, "Earth will attend the next council meeting. In person. At the Korthak front line. 7 days. 7 days?" Varathon exploded. "The battle begins in 20 hours. What good does 7 days do us?" "I think," Sujin said carefully, "she means for us to hold the line until they arrive." Krotok laughed bitterly. "So, the humans will show up to inspect the wreckage. How generous." But Jayara noticed something in Sujin's voice, excitement mixed with disbelief. "Lieutenant, what did you see at Earth?" "I saw the future, Ambassador. I saw what humanity has been building for 50 years while we held meetings." Sujin's voice became stronger. "Hold the line. Whatever it takes. They are coming." The Korthak fleet arrived exactly on schedule, filling the sensors with contacts. 800 warships, each one a predator built for destruction. They moved with precision that spoke of endless training and absolute confidence. Admiral Veracruz looked at his 284 ships, a desperate collection of old veterans and converted civilian craft. Then he opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Veracruz. I will not lie to you. We are outmatched. But we fight anyway. For those who cannot fight. For our families. For the idea that bullies should not be allowed to take whatever they want. Today, we show the Korthak what free people can do when pushed too far. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage." The fleet powered up weapons and shields. On 284 ships, crews stood ready. The storm had arrived. 2 weeks earlier, Lieutenant Sujin Choi guided her small courier ship toward the Sol system. She had made this journey twice before, visiting her father's homeworld, but never with such urgency. The moment she crossed into human-monitored space, her sensors went wild. Contacts everywhere. Automated defense platforms. Patrol routes. sensor grids overlapping in complex patterns. This was not the minimal defense network she remembered from her last visit. A sleek patrol craft appeared from seemingly nowhere, matching her velocity perfectly. A calm voice came through her communications system. Unknown vessel. This is Terran Defense Patrol 7. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Sujin transmitted her credentials. This is Lieutenant Sujin Choi of the Lyrany Collective, carrying an urgent message from the Galactic Council to Earth's leadership. I request permission to approach. There was a pause. Then the patrol craft took up position alongside her. Follow our heading, Lieutenant. You are cleared to approach Lunar Command. Do not deviate from the designated flight path. As she followed the patrol craft deeper into the system, Sujin could not stop looking at her sensors. Ships everywhere, moving in coordinated patterns. Massive structures orbiting the outer planets. Construction facilities in the asteroid belt, working non-stop. The entire system hummed with activity. This was not what the Council believed Earth to be. This was not a primitive world hiding in isolation. They approached Earth's moon, and Sujin saw it. Lunar Command Station, a massive facility built into the moon's surface and extending into orbit. Docking bays, weapon platforms, communication arrays. It looked like a fortress. She docked carefully and was met by a security team. They were professional, but not hostile, scanning her thoroughly before escorting her through corridors that gleamed with clean efficiency. Admiral Jihye Kwon waited in a conference room with windows overlooking Earth below. She was perhaps 60 years old. Gray hair pulled back, wearing a dark blue uniform with rank insignia. Sujin did not recognize. Her eyes were sharp and measuring. Lieutenant Choi, welcome to Lunar Command. I understand you carry a message from the Council? Sujin stood at attention and delivered the message formally. She explained about the Korthak invasion, the 5 fallen systems, the 800 warships heading for Council space. She described the desperate defensive fleet of fewer than 300 ships. Admiral Kwon listened without interrupting, her face neutral. When Sujin finished, Kwon asked precise questions. What weapons did the Korthak use? What were their tactical patterns? How many ships could the Council actually field? What was their command structure? Sujin answered as best she could, but she felt embarrassed. The Council's military capabilities sounded pathetic when laid out clearly. Finally, Kwon sat back and was quiet for a long moment. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Admiral, I know Earth has no obligation to help us, Sujin said. The Council has not exactly welcomed humanity warmly. But there are billions of innocent people in the path of this invasion. Any assistance Earth could provide would be deeply appreciated. Kwon smiled slightly. You are diplomatic, Lieutenant. A useful skill. She stood and walked to the window, looking down at Earth. Tell me, what does the Council think Earth has been doing for the past 50 years? Most believe humanity is isolationist, afraid of galactic politics. Some think we are too primitive to participate meaningfully. And you? What do you think? Sujin hesitated. My father told me stories about human history, about how humans respond to threats. I think Earth has been preparing. Smart man, your father. Kwon turned back to face her. We received every Council meeting invitation, Lieutenant. Every single one. We read every agenda. We watch the broadcasts of every session. Sujin was confused. Then why never attend? Because we were busy. Kwon tapped a command on her datapad. The windows changed, displaying images. Come, let me show you what we have been building. The first image showed massive shipyards orbiting Earth. Dozens of them, each capable of constructing multiple vessels simultaneously. Orbital construction facilities around Earth, Mars, and the outer planets. Kwon explained. We have 47 major shipyards, operating continuously. The next image showed the asteroid belt, transformed into an industrial complex. Mining operations, refineries, manufacturing centers, all connected by a network of automated transport systems. Raw materials. We stripped 3 large asteroids completely, and are working on a 4th. Enough metal to build thousands of ships. More images followed. Antimatter production facilities using solar collectors. Training centers on Mars, where crews practiced constantly. Research stations developing new weapons and defense systems. Automated factories producing everything from hull plates to computer systems. Sujin stared in shock. This is impossible. This scale of industry would take centuries to build. It took 50 years of focused effort, Kwon corrected. While your council debated seating arrangements and trade regulations, we built this. Every human nation contributed. Every resource we could spare went into this project. But why? Why build such a massive military force? Kwon's expression turned serious. Because we know how this story goes, Lieutenant. We have seen it in our own history dozens of times. A group of peaceful nations form an alliance. They grow comfortable. They let their defenses decline. Then a predator appears, and no one is ready to stop them. She paused. We knew the galaxy would eventually face a species like the Korthak. We decided Earth would be ready when that day came. The Council thinks you are cowards, Sujin whispered. I know. We let them think that. Better to be underestimated than to show our hand too early. Kwon pulled up another display. This is the Terran Defense Fleet. Sujin's breath caught. The screen showed ship after ship. Carriers longer than any vessel she had ever seen. Cruisers bristling with weapons. Destroyers built for speed and firepower. Support ships. Repair vessels. Troop transports. All of them displaying the same, unified insignia. How many? Sujin asked. 2,000 warships fully operational. Another 500 in final construction phases. Every ship is modern, built in the last 20 years, using our latest technology. Every crew has trained together for years. Kwon looked directly at Sujin. We did not come to your council because we were not ready. Now we are. Sujin felt tears forming. You will help us? We will do more than help. Kwon called up a star map showing the threshold system. Tell your Admiral Vera Kos to hold the line for 7 days. That is how long it will take us to mobilize the full fleet and reach his position. I do not know. Against 800 Korthak ships, our fleet might not last 7 hours. Then tell him to retreat and delay. Do whatever it takes. We are coming. Kwon handed her a data chip. These are the coordinates where we will arrive. Make sure your forces are clear of this area. We are bringing a lot of ships, and we need room. Sujin took the chip with shaking hands. Admiral, the Council has treated Earth terribly. Why risk your people for us? Kwon smiled, and it was genuinely warm. Because 50 years ago, Earth was invited to join a community of peaceful species. We liked that idea. We wanted to be part of it. But we also knew that peace only survives when someone is strong enough to defend it. Since the Council could not be that someone, we decided Earth would be. She walked Sujin back to her ship personally. At the docking bay, she placed a hand on the younger woman's shoulder. Tell Ambassador Jiara we remember her defending Earth in Council sessions. Tell her humanity does not forget its friends. And tell Admiral Veracos that he does not fight alone. Earth is coming to the meeting. Better late than never. Sujin launched from Lunar Command in a daze. As she cleared the moon's orbit, she looked back at the Sol system with new eyes. The patrol craft that had seemed impressive earlier now looked like tiny pieces of a massive machine. Everything she could see was coordinated, organized, ready. She pushed her engines well past safe limits on the return journey. The Council needed to know. They needed to hold on just a little longer. Behind her, throughout the Sol system, alarms began sounding. Crews rushed to their ships. Admiral Kwon stood in the Fleet Command Center, surrounded by displays showing 2,000 warships beginning to move. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Quan's voice rang across every vessel. "We have received a distress call from the Galactic Council. The Korthak Dominion has invaded Council space with 800 warships. Our friends are outnumbered and outgunned." She paused, letting that sink in. "For 50 years, we have prepared for this moment. We have built this fleet to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Today, we show the galaxy what Earth stands for. All ships begin mobilization sequence. We depart for Threshold System in 6 hours, and we are bringing everything we have." Across 2,000 ships, crews moved with practiced efficiency. Engines powered up. Weapons came online. Supply vessels began their final loading procedures. Earth was going to war, not for conquest, not for glory, but because someone had to stand between the peaceful and the predators. And humanity had spent 50 years making sure they would be ready when that day came. Sujin's ship burst into the Threshold System, transmitting her message on every frequency. She had pushed her engines so hard that warning lights covered her control panel. But she had made the journey in record time. "This is Lieutenant Choi to Admiral Veracruz. I have returned from Earth. They are coming. I repeat, Earth is sending help. Hold the line for 7 days." On the bridge of the Meridian flagship, the message caused stunned silence. Then Verathon started laughing, a bitter sound without humor. 7 days? The Korthak arrive in 18 hours. What good does 7 days do us? And Dabu. But Sujin was already broadcasting the data chip's contents to the fleet. Coordinates appeared on every tactical display, marking a point in space well behind the defensive line. Admiral Quan said to keep this area clear. "They need room for the fleet." "The fleet?" Krotok hissed. "How many ships are the humans sending? 5? 10? This is madness." Sujin's voice shook with emotion. "I cannot tell you what I saw. You would not believe me. But trust me when I say we must hold the line. Earth is coming, and they are bringing hope with them." Admiral Veracruz studied the coordinates carefully. "Very well, Lieutenant. We adjust our defensive positions to keep that area clear. But 18 hours from now, we fight regardless. All ships, prepare for battle. May fortune favor us all." Jiara pulled Sujin aside on a private channel. "What did you really see there?" "Everything, Ambassador. They have been building an entire war machine while we held meetings. The scale is beyond anything the Council has created." Sujin paused. "They watched us, Ambassador. They watched every council session. They knew exactly what we were becoming, and they prepared for the day we would need them." The hours crawled by. Crew members tried to rest but could not sleep. Engineers performed final checks on weapons systems, knowing most of their ships were already operating beyond design specifications. Captains wrote messages to their families, just in case. On the Council flagship, Verathon stared at the tactical display showing 800 Korthak contacts approaching steadily. Next to them, his own fleet of 284 ships looked pathetic. "We are going to die here," he said quietly to Admiral Veracruz. The old admiral nodded. "Probably. But we die standing. And maybe, just maybe, we buy enough time for something to change." The Korthak fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel with perfect precision. 800 warships spread across space in a formation that spoke of absolute confidence. Each ship was a masterwork of military engineering, armored plates over powerful engines and devastating weapons. War Master Drokhtar's face appeared on all frequencies. His expression showed no anger, just certainty. "Counselor Verathon, your fleet is brave but foolish. You have no chance of victory. I offer you one opportunity to withdraw. Take your ships and leave. We will occupy this system peacefully. Resist, and I will destroy every vessel you have brought here." Verathon wanted to surrender. Every logical part of his mind screamed that fighting was suicide, but he looked at his crew. At Jiara, standing beside him. At Admiral Veracruz, waiting calmly for orders. He thought about the billions of people living in Council space, counting on someone to protect them. War Master Draktar, the Galactic Council rejects your ultimatum. This system is under our protection. If you want it, you will have to take it. Draktar's smile was like watching a predator bare its teeth. So be it. All ships, advance. Destroy any vessel that resists. The battle began with the Korthak launching a massive missile barrage. Thousands of warheads streaked across space toward the defensive line. Admiral Virakos barked orders. All ships, point defense active. Interceptors launch. The Council fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and kinetic weapons tried to shoot down the incoming missiles. Small fighter craft darted between the warheads, destroying what they could, but there were too many. Missiles broke through the defensive fire. The first one struck a Zephrani cruiser, overwhelming its shields and tearing through the hull. The ship broke apart in a flash of light and debris. Then another hit, and another. Within the first 10 minutes, the Council lost 12 ships. The Korthak had not lost any. Reform the line, Virakos ordered. Concentrate, fire, on their lead elements. The Council fleet poured weapons fire into the advancing Korthak ships. They managed to damage a few, destroying shields and scoring hits on armor, but the Korthak vessels were built tough. They absorbed punishment and kept coming. The Korthak returned fire with disciplined volleys. They targeted the Council's larger ships, the ones with actual military capability. A Meridian dreadnought, pride of the fleet, took multiple hits to its engines and began tumbling out of formation. Jiara watched the tactical display with horror. Ships were dying. People she knew, friends and colleagues, were being killed right in front of her, and there was nothing she could do. How long can we hold? She asked quietly. Admiral Virakos did not take his eyes off the tactical display. The battle raged for 2 hours. The Council fleet fought desperately, using every trick experienced captains could think of. They concentrated fire to bring down individual Korthak ships. They used the system's planets for cover. They launched hit-and-run attacks with smaller, faster vessels. It was not enough. The Korthak had more ships, better weapons, superior armor, and well-trained crews. They advanced methodically, destroying Council vessels one by one. The casualty count climbed. 20 ships lost. 30. 45. 50. Admiral Virakos made the hardest decision of his life. All ships, begin retreat. We cannot win here. Fall back to secondary positions. Varathon wanted to argue but knew it was right. They had tried. They had bled. Staying would just mean dying for nothing. The Council fleet began pulling back, the faster ships covering the retreat of damaged vessels. The Korthak pursued, sensing victory. Then the sensors officer on the Meridian flagship gasped. Admiral Virakos looked at his tactical display. Space itself was rippling in the area. Sujin had marked. Not one distortion or 10, but hundreds of them, all appearing simultaneously. What is that? Varathon demanded. War Master Draktar saw it too. On his flagship, alarms blared as sensors struggled to track the massive energy signatures. Identify those contacts, Draktar ordered. Before anyone could answer, space tore open. Slipspace ruptures formed in perfect geometric patterns. Each one, a doorway, from somewhere else. The scale was massive, far larger than anything normally used for fleet movements. The first ship emerged, a human carrier, over 2 kilometers long, bristling with launch bays and weapon systems. Then, another appeared beside it. And another. Destroyers poured through the ruptures in groups of 10. Cruisers followed in tight formations. Support vessels and repair ships took up positions. More carriers. More destroyers. More cruisers. The Council fleet stopped retreating. Crews, staring at their sensors, in disbelief. The Korthak fleet halted their advance, trying to process what they were seeing. Ships kept coming. 50. 100. 300. 500. They filled space with their presence, each one displaying the same insignia. Earth, Defense Force. 1,000 ships. 1,500. 2,000. Every single vessel was modern and clean, showing no signs of age or neglect. They moved together with a precision that spoke of endless training. Within minutes, they had formed a battle formation that made the Korthak's disciplined approach look clumsy. The 2,000 human ships positioned themselves between the battered Council fleet and the Korthak armada. It was the largest military force anyone in the galaxy had ever seen assembled in one place. On every ship in both fleets, the same message came through. Admiral Ji-Hae Kwan's face appeared on communication screens, her expression calm and professional. "This is Admiral Kwan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We apologize for our tardiness to the Council meeting. We had some distance to travel." She paused, letting that sink in. "War Master Draktar, you and I need to talk." Aboard the Council flagship, Virathon collapsed into his chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. Around the bridge, crew members were crying, laughing, some just staring in shock. Ja'ara found her voice first. "They came. They actually came." Sujin stood at her station, tears streaming down her face. I told you they were building something." Admiral Veracos, the old warrior who had commanded fleets for decades, looked at the tactical display showing 2,000 human warships and started laughing. Not the bitter laugh of despair, but genuine joy. "I asked for a miracle," he said. "I think we just got one." On the Korthak flagship, War Master Draktar stared at his tactical display in silence. 800 ships had seemed unstoppable. Against the Council's pathetic fleet, victory had been certain. Now he faced 2,000 warships he knew nothing about, from a species everyone thought was too afraid to leave their home system. For the first time in his military career, Draktar felt uncertain. He had expected to fight frightened civilians in converted cargo ships. Instead, he faced what looked like a professional military force that dwarfed his own fleet. Admiral Kwan's face remained on his screen, waiting patiently for his response. Draktar took a deep breath and opened a channel. "Admiral Kwan, I admit I am surprised. The Council led us to believe humanity was isolationist and weak. The Council believed what we allowed them to believe." Kwan replied calmly. "Now, shall we discuss terms? Or do we need to resolve this the hard way?" The space between the two fleets crackled with tension. 2,000 human warships faced 800 Korthak vessels, with the battered remnants of the Council fleet behind the human line. War Master Draktar studied the formation of human ships carefully. They had positioned themselves in overlapping layers, each group supporting the others. It was a defensive formation, but one that could shift to offense instantly. Whoever commanded this fleet understood military strategy deeply. "Terms?" Draktar repeated. "You speak as if you have already won." "Admiral, my fleet has fought 100 battles. We have never been defeated." Admiral Kwan's expression did not change. "War Master, I am offering you a chance to avoid finding out what defeat feels like. Your fleet is impressive. Your crews are clearly well trained, but you are outnumbered more than 2-1 by a force you know nothing about. This does not have to end in bloodshed." Draktar felt anger rising. The humans were trying to intimidate him without firing a shot. "You think numbers alone guarantee victory? Perhaps your ships are impressive to look at, but can they fight? Only one way to find out," Kwan replied calmly. "But I would prefer not to. Here are my terms. Withdraw from all systems you have occupied in the last 6 months. Pay reparations to the species you displaced. Return to your pre-expansion borders. Do this, and no Korthak ship will be harmed today. And if I refuse, then we will disable your fleet, extract your crews safely, and tow your ships back to Dominion space anyway. The only difference is how many Korthak warriors die in the process." Kwan leaned forward slightly. I am giving you a chance to save your people. War Master, I suggest you take it. Draktar cut the transmission. On his bridge, his officers waited for orders. War Master, what are your commands? His second asked. Draktar looked at the tactical display again. 2,000 ships. The humans had been silent for 50 years, and then they showed up with this. What else had they built that he could not see? What weapons did those ships carry? But the Korthak Dominion did not back down. They did not surrender. They fought. All ships, prepare for battle. We will show these humans that the Korthak do not fear numbers. He opened a fleet-wide channel. Warriors of the Dominion, today we face an enemy that thinks they can frighten us with their fleet size. They are wrong. We have crushed every opponent we have faced. These humans will be no different. Attack pattern Drakthar. All ships, advance. The Korthak fleet surged forward, 800 warships accelerating toward the human lines. On the human flagship, Admiral Kwan's side. I gave him a chance. Battle stations. All ships. Defensive formation. Beta 7. Rules of engagement. Disable. Do not destroy. We are here to stop a war, not start a massacre. The two fleets collided in a storm of weapons fire. The Korthak opened with their standard overwhelming missile barrage, thousands of warheads designed to saturate enemy defenses. It had worked perfectly against the Council fleet. Against the human fleet, it failed completely. Point defense systems on every human ship activated simultaneously. Streams of kinetic rounds and energy beams created a wall of fire that intercepted the missiles while they were still kilometers away. Advanced targeting computers tracked and eliminated threats with mechanical precision. Not a single missile reached the human line. The Korthak commanders stared in shock. Their most effective opening move had been negated entirely. Then the humans returned fire. Railgun rounds traveling at incredible speeds punched through Korthak shields like they were not there. The impacts were precise, targeted at weapons systems and engines, disabling rather than destroying. Plasma torpedoes followed, overwhelming shield generators without penetrating hull armor. Human fighter craft poured from the carriers, small and fast, swarming around damaged Korthak ships and cutting off their escape routes. But what impressed the watching Council fleet most was not the technology. It was the coordination. Every human ship knew exactly what it was supposed to do. Destroyers created overlapping fields of fire. Cruisers protected the carriers while launching devastating long-range strikes. Support vessels moved damaged ships out of the line of fire. Electronic warfare specialists blinded Korthak sensors while protecting human communications. They fought like a single organism with 2,000 bodies. The Korthak fleet, despite their training and experience, could not match it. They were used to fighting opponents who panicked under pressure, who made mistakes, who could be overwhelmed. The humans made no mistakes. Within 30 minutes, 100 Korthak ships had been disabled, their weapons destroyed, and engines offline. Human rescue ships moved in immediately, offering aid to the damaged vessels and pulling escape pods to safety. Draktar watched his fleet being systematically taken apart and felt something he had never experienced in battle before. Despair. Focus fire on their carriers, he ordered. Take out their command ships. The Korthak fleet concentrated their attacks on the human carriers. Massive vessels that should have been vulnerable to focused assault. But when the Korthak ships moved to attack, they found themselves walking into carefully prepared kill zones. Human destroyers appeared on their flanks, pouring fire into their exposed sides. The carriers themselves proved to have surprisingly heavy defensive armament. Another 50 Korthak ships were disabled in the next hour. On the Council flagship, Virathon watched the battle with his mouth hanging open. This is not possible. No one fights like this. Admiral Veracos, the experienced military commander, understood what he was seeing. They trained together for years, decades perhaps. Every captain knows what the others will do before they do it. Every crew has practiced until these maneuvers are instinct. He shook his head in admiration. This is what a real military force looks like. Jara noticed something else. They are not destroying the Korthak ships. Look, every hit is precise. They disable and move on. Sujin pulled up data on the human rescue operations. They are pulling Korthak crew members from damaged ships and providing medical aid. They are treating injured enemies. The battle continued for 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Korthak fought bravely, but they were simply outmatched in every way. Better technology, better training, better coordination, and more ships. By the end, 600 Korthak vessels were disabled, floating dead in space with their crews rescued by human ships. 150 had surrendered when they saw what was happening. Only 50 were still operational, clustered around Drokhtar's flagship. Admiral Kwan opened a channel again. War Master Drokhtar, your fleet is finished. You fought well, and your warriors showed great courage. But this is over. Surrender. And I give you my word that every Korthak crew member will be returned safely to your space. Drokhtar looked around his bridge. His ship was surrounded by human vessels. Weapons trained on him from every direction. His fleet was destroyed. He had lost. Why? He asked. Why do you not kill us? We would have destroyed you. Without mercy. Kwan's expression softened slightly. Because that is not why we built this fleet, War Master. We did not spend 50 years preparing for war so we could be conquerors. We did it so we could protect those who needed protection. Your crews are not our enemies. Your government's actions were the problem. You shame me with your mercy. No. I offer you a chance to return home and tell your people the truth. The galaxy does not need more warriors like you. It needs protectors. Perhaps the Korthak can learn the difference. Drokhtar considered this for a long moment. Then he opened a fleet-wide channel. All Korthak ships, this is War Master Drokhtar. Stand down. We have been defeated. The words tasted like poison, but they were true. The remaining Korthak ships powered down their weapons. Around them, human vessels moved in to provide assistance to the damaged ships. Admiral Kwan transmitted terms: complete withdrawal from all occupied systems, reparations for the displaced populations, reduction of Korthak territory to pre-expansion borders. War Master Drokhtar accepted them all. He had no choice. Over the next 3 days, the human fleet helped repair enough Korthak ships to make them space-worthy for the journey home. They provided supplies, shared repair techniques, and treated injured Korthak crew members in their medical facilities. Drokhtar visited one of the human medical ships to check on his wounded. He found Korthak warriors being treated alongside human medical personnel, receiving the same care as human crew members would get. A human doctor, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, explained the treatment protocols to him. We are using regenerative techniques to repair the bone damage. Your people's physiology is challenging to work with, but we are managing. Why do you help us? Drokhtar asked. We came to conquer. We would have killed you. Dr. Chen looked at him with sad eyes. Because every person in this medical bay is someone's child, someone's friend, someone's family. War might be necessary sometimes, but cruelty never is. Drokhtar had no answer for that. When the Korthak fleet finally departed, limping home in shame, the Council fleet and the human fleet remained at threshold. Councillor Verathon requested a meeting with Admiral Kwan. She invited the entire Council leadership aboard the human flagship. They arrived expecting a military vessel. What they found was something else entirely. Yes, there were weapons and armor and all the tools of war, but there were also gardens growing under artificial sunlight, art installations created by the crew, a library filled with books from Earth. Admiral Kwan met them in a conference room with windows showing the stars. Councillors, welcome. I apologize for the delay in attending council meetings. We had some preparation to do first. Verathon, for the first time in his political career, felt genuine humility. Admiral Kwan, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for how we treated Earth. We called you cowards. We mocked your absence. We were fools. You were comfortable, Quan corrected gently. There is a difference. You built a society focused on culture and trade and cooperation. Those are good things, but you forgot that peace only survives when someone is willing to defend it. Jeara stepped forward. Why did you really stay away, Admiral? The truth, please. Quan smiled. Because we watched your council sessions, Ambassador. We saw you debate seating arrangements for months. We watched you form 17 committees to study whether to form a committee to discuss military cooperation. We saw a governing body that had forgotten how to make hard decisions. She pulled up historical data on a display. In the 50 years since first contact, the Council has held 247 sessions. You know how many of those addressed military preparedness? 4. And those 4 resulted in no concrete action. The Council members looked ashamed. We knew that eventually, someone like the Korthak would appear. A predator species that saw opportunity in your weakness. We decided that when that day came, Earth would be ready to help. So we stayed home and built what was needed. Krotok spoke up. You built 2,000 warships. That is more than the entire Council combined. What do you want in return? We want you to be able to protect yourselves, Quan replied. Starting immediately, we are offering technical assistance and training to any Council species that wants to modernize their defense forces, not to build empires, not to threaten each other, but so that next time a War Master Drokhtar appears, you can defend your own systems. 1-5. Varathon felt tears in his eyes. You would share your technology? After how we treated you? Yes. Because that is what partners do. And because a strong council serves everyone's interests, including Earth's. Over the next months, human technicians and advisors spread throughout council space. They helped upgrade defensive systems, trained new crews, and shared knowledge freely. The council species learned that humans were not trying to control them but to empower them. 1 year after the Battle of Threshold, the Galactic Council held a session. Earth's seat was no longer empty. Admiral Quan sat there with a full delegation of human representatives. The session began with Varathon formally apologizing once more to humanity and thanking them for their aid. Quan stood and addressed the council. Honorable members, Earth accepts your thanks, but wants to make something clear. We did not do this for gratitude. We did it because it was right, because when you have the power to protect others, you have the responsibility to use it wisely. She paused, looking around the chamber. For 50 years, we skipped these meetings, but we never stopped paying attention. We never stopped caring about the galactic community. We just showed our care differently, not through words and debates, but through preparation and action. Jeara stood and began applauding. Within moments, the entire council joined her. 200 species standing and honoring the world that had saved them. Outside, in the space around Nexus Station, human warships patrolled alongside vessels from dozens of council species. The combined fleet trained together, shared techniques, and built the bonds of true alliance. Earth had finally come to the galactic table, not as supplicants or conquerors, but as equals who had earned their place through demonstrated capability and moral courage. Admiral Quan looked at Earth's nameplate and smiled. The seat had been empty for 50 years, but those years had not been wasted. Earth had used that time to become what the galaxy needed most. Not politicians who debated endlessly, but protectors who acted when action was needed. And now, standing guard over a galaxy that had learned to value strength tempered with mercy, Earth finally felt at home among the stars.
Captain Jinwoo Park stood before the Galactic Council chamber, his jaw tight with frustration. The massive circular room held representatives from 40 different species, all sitting in their comfortable seats while he showed them images of burning ships and dead civilians. On the holographic display, another merchant vessel floated in pieces, its crew lost to the Kravathi pirates who now controlled 3 entire sectors of space. "This is the 15th attack in 2 months," Park said, his voice steady despite his anger. The Cravathi pirate syndicate is not just raiding cargo anymore. They are killing crews, taking prisoners, and selling them as slaves. They grow stronger every day while we talk. Ambassador Velnara, a tall Korthian with silver skin and 3 eyes, raised one elegant hand. Captain Park, we understand your concern. However, the Council cannot simply deploy military forces based on incomplete evidence. We have protocols. We have procedures that exist for good reasons. Park felt heat rise in his chest. Incomplete evidence? I just showed you 15 destroyed ships. Yes, but we must verify these incidents through proper channels, another council member said, their translator making their clicking sounds into words. We need investigation committees. We need diplomatic outreach to determine if these pirates can be reasoned with. Military action is always the last resort. How many more people have to die while you verify and investigate? Park demanded. Velnara's expression remained calm and diplomatic. Captain, your species is still new to galactic society. You do not understand how things work here. Rushing into military action creates more problems than it solves. We estimate that in 6 months, perhaps 7, we will have completed our investigation and can present options to the full council. 6 months, Park repeated, his voice hollow. In 6 months, hundreds more ships will burn. Thousands more people will die or disappear into slave markets. That is speculation, Velnara said firmly. We deal in facts and proper procedure. This session is concluded. We will review your evidence and schedule further discussions. Park watched as the council members began filing out, chatting amongst themselves about completely different topics. To them, this was just another meeting, another problem to table for later discussion. He gathered his data files and left the chamber, his hands shaking with suppressed rage. The station bar was crowded with off-duty ship crews, but Park found the corner table where 3 other human captains waited for him. Lieutenant Su-Min Lee, his second-in-command, sat beside Captain Maria Chen of the cargo hauler, Steady Progress, and Captain Thomas Wright from the mining vessel, Iron Will. They all looked at him with expectant faces. "Let me guess," Chen said. "More committees?" Park nodded and sat down heavily. 6 months minimum before they even consider taking action. Wright slammed his fist on the table. 6 months! The Cravathi hit another colony transport yesterday. Took the whole crew. That is 40 people gone, probably sold to the highest bidder by now. Lee pulled up data on her personal tablet. I have been tracking the attacks. The pattern is clear. The pirates are testing council response times. They have figured out that nobody will stop them. Each raid gets bolder. Each attack goes deeper into supposedly protected space. The council does not care, Chen said bitterly. They sit in their safe stations and debate while real people suffer. My cousin was on that colony transport. 40 years old, 3 kids, just trying to make a living hauling supplies. Now she is gone because the mighty Galactic Council needs to verify evidence. Park looked at each of them. These were good people, experienced spacers who knew the risks of traveling the shipping lanes. But they also knew right from wrong. They knew that when someone attacked innocent people, you did not form a committee. You acted. What if we did not wait for permission? Park said quietly. The table went silent. Lee looked at him with sharp eyes. You mean act independently, without council authorization? The Cravathi main base is in the Theta Belt asteroid field, Park continued. We know where it is. We have the information the council says they need to verify. What if we just went and dealt with it ourselves? Wright leaned back. That is insane. My mining ship has basic defensive weapons, not military-grade hardware. Chen's hauler has even less. Your patrol ship is what? 40 years old? 42, Lee corrected with a slight smile. Against a pirate fleet? Chen shook her head. They have 20 warships according to intelligence. We would be destroyed. Park met each of their eyes. Maybe. Probably. But at least we would be doing something. At least we would be trying to help instead of sitting in meetings while people die. The council will debate for 6 months. How many more crews will the pirates take in that time? You are talking about starting an unauthorized military operation, Lee said carefully. The council will be furious. Earth government will probably disavow us. We could lose our licenses, our ships, everything. I know, Park said, but I cannot sit here anymore. I cannot watch more people die because bureaucrats need proper channels and verification. Those pirates understand one language, force, and if the council will not speak it, then maybe we should. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a hard decision. My cargo bays are full of metal containers, heavy ones. I bet those would make excellent obstacles in an asteroid field. Wright nodded slowly. My mining ship has drilling equipment strong enough to crack asteroids. I wonder what that would do to someone's defensive positions. Lee pulled up star charts on her tablet. The Theta Belt is 4 days away at normal speed. If we departed separately and met at coordinates outside Council monitoring range, nobody would know until we were already gone. Park felt something settle in his chest. This was right. This was what needed to happen. He stood up and raised his glass. Fine, he said, and the word felt like freedom. We will do it ourselves. The other captains stood and clinked their glasses against his. They knew the risks. They knew they might not survive, but they also knew that sometimes doing the right thing meant not waiting for permission. Ambassador Velnara sat in her office hours later, reviewing reports. A note crossed her desk about several human vessels departing their scheduled routes. She marked it as low priority. Humans were impulsive, everyone knew that. They would probably be back in a few days after their little adventure accomplished nothing. She had no idea that she was watching history begin. She had no idea that the phrase, "Fine, we will do it ourselves," was about to become the most feared sentence in the galaxy. The Theta Belt asteroid field stretched across space like a wall of tumbling rock. Inside that chaos of stone and ice, the Cravathi pirates had built their fortress over 3 years. They chose well. The asteroids provided natural cover and made conventional attacks nearly impossible. Sensor readings bounced off the rocks. Navigation became a nightmare. Any military force would need months to plan a safe approach. The 5 human ships arrived at the belt's edge and did not plan at all. All right, Captain Park said over the communication channel linking all 5 vessels. Everyone remembers what we discussed? Create chaos, survive the chaos, win through the chaos, Lee responded from her tactical station aboard the makeshift Justice. Simple plan. That is not a plan, Wright said from the Iron Will. That is barely even an idea. Welcome to the human way of doing things, Chen added cheerfully from the Steady Progress. Inside the asteroid fortress, Pirate Lord Zarthok received reports of the approaching human ships. The Cravathi commander was massive even by his species' standards, with 4 arms covered in battle scars and eyes that had watched countless victims beg for mercy. He looked at the tactical display and laughed, his translator turning his hissing sounds into mocking words. 5 ships? 5 tiny ships? The humans are even more foolish than I believed. Send 10 vessels to destroy them. Make it slow. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone challenges us without council backing. 20 warships emerged from the asteroid cover, their weapons hot and ready. They were proper military vessels, stolen from various species over years of raiding. Each one outgunned the human ships 3-1. By every tactical calculation, the battle should be over in minutes. Then the humans started moving, and tactical calculations stopped meaning anything. Wright's mining ship, Iron Will, moved straight toward the largest asteroid cluster, his drilling equipment activated with a high-pitched whine that echoed through space. He did not drill carefully or precisely. He drilled fast, punching holes deep into 3 different asteroids in quick succession. "What is he doing?" Zarthok demanded. "Those drill hits are destabilizing the asteroid orbits." He was right. The asteroid started tumbling in new directions, their predictable paths becoming wild and dangerous. 2 pirate warships had to veer sharply to avoid collisions. A third was not fast enough. A chunk of rock the size of a house smashed into its port side, crumpling armor plating and knocking out its engines. Chen's cargo hauler joined the chaos. She opened her bay doors and started dumping containers. Thousands of tons of metal boxes spilled into space, each one becoming a tumbling obstacle. The containers spread out, creating an expanding field of debris that filled the space between asteroids. "Insane!" Zarthok roared. "They are making the battlefield impossible for everyone, including themselves." But that was the point. The pirates had trained to fight in predictable conditions. Their tactics relied on sensor data and calculated movements. The humans were turning the battlefield into pure chaos, and chaos was something they understood very well. Park guided the makeshift Justice through the debris field at speeds that made his crew grip their seats. He dodged containers by meters, slipped between tumbling asteroids with centimeters to spare, and somehow kept his aging patrol ship intact through maneuvers that should have torn it apart. "Target their sensor arrays," he ordered Lee. "Blind them." Lee worked her tactical station with practiced precision. She picked shots carefully, not wasting ammunition on armor or shields. Instead, she targeted the external sensors on pirate ships. One shot, one sensor array destroyed. The pirates started losing their ability to track targets through the chaos. In the engineering section, Ji-Hoon Kim watched his displays with growing alarm. Hull stress was at 140% of safety limits. Power conduits were overheating. The engine made sounds that no engine should make. Everything told him they should stop immediately and make repairs. Instead, he rerouted power from life support to shields, bypassed 3 safety systems, and boosted engine output to levels the manufacturers would call impossible. "We will hold together," he muttered to himself in Korean. "We will hold together because I say so." The pirate warships tried to adapt. They formed defensive groups and attempted coordinated attacks. But coordinated attacks required communication, and communication required clear sensor data. With half their sensors blind and asteroids tumbling everywhere, coordination became impossible. A pirate commander tried to lock weapons on the steady progress. Chen's cargo hauler looked helpless, fat, and slow. An easy target. The pirate ship moved in for the kill. Then Wright's mining ship appeared from behind an asteroid and drove its drilling equipment straight through the pirate's engine section. The warship died instantly, power core going dark. "Sorry about that," Wright said over the communication channel. "Did I forget to mention my drill goes through armor?" Zarthok watched his tactical advantage disappear into chaos. He had superior numbers and firepower, but those meant nothing when his ships could not navigate safely. 3 more warships collided with debris. Another took damage from a tumbling asteroid. His fleet was scattered, blind, and increasingly desperate. Park saw the opportunity. "All ships, converge on the flagship, now!" The 5 human vessels moved through the chaos like they were born in it. They dodged and weaved, using obstacles instead of avoiding them, turning the deadly debris field into cover and concealment. The pirate flagship suddenly found itself surrounded, separated from its support vessels by walls of tumbling rock and metal containers. Zarthok realized his mistake too late. He had assumed humans would fight like everyone else, with careful planning and calculated risk. He never considered they might embrace chaos itself as a weapon. "Retreat!" he ordered his fleet. "Fall back to the fortress!" The pirate ships broke formation and fled toward the relative safety of the asteroid base. Park let them go. This first battle was not about destroying the pirates. It was about sending a message. Lee checked her tactical display. 5 pirate warships destroyed or disabled, 3 more damaged, 0 human casualties. Yet, Kim added from engineering, we have 0 human casualties yet. This ship is held together by hope and my personal stubbornness. Park smiled despite the tension. Good enough. Signal the fleet. We hold position here. Back at Council headquarters, Ambassador Velnara watched the battle reports come in with growing disbelief. Her 3 eyes widened as she read the tactical summary. Impossible. The humans should be dead. Instead, they had defeated a superior force through methods so unconventional they bordered on madness. She opened a communication channel to Earth's diplomatic office. What are your ships doing? The human ambassador looked tired. Apparently, what we should have done months ago. They are protecting innocent people since the Council would not. Velnara felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was not just one battle. This was the beginning of something that would change everything. The humans had just proven they did not need permission, did not need proper channels, and did not need the Council's approval. They only needed determination and a willingness to embrace chaos. In the Theta Belt, Park looked at his tired crew. Rest while you can. Tomorrow we finish this. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 12 hours, every major news network broadcast the story of 5 human ships defeating a pirate fleet through pure chaos and determination. Within 24 hours, the story reached every trade route, every station, and every ship in known space. Within 48 hours, everything changed. Captain Park sat in his command chair aboard the makeshift Justice, reviewing damage reports. Kim had somehow kept the ship running, though he described its current state as technically impossible but practically functional. Through the view screen, the asteroid field floated peacefully, the pirate fortress silent and dark after their successful assault. They had won. Then his communication system started going crazy. Captain Park, this is the cargo vessel Morning Star out of Rigel Station. We heard what you did. We want to help. Captain, this is mining ship Deep Fortune. We have crews who lost friends to pirates. We are ready to fight. Makeshift Justice. This is the hauler Second Chance. Tell us where to go. We will be there. Lee looked at Park with wide eyes. Sir, I am counting messages from 37 different human vessels. They all want to join us. Park stood and activated the main broadcast channel. His face appeared on screens across multiple star systems, reaching every human ship that had contacted them. This is Captain Jinwoo Park. I did not start this to build an army. I started it because the Council would not protect innocent people. If you join us, understand what that means. No official support, no backup, no guarantee of survival. We do this because it is right, not because it is safe. He paused, letting his words sink in. If you still want to help after hearing that, then welcome aboard. Send your coordinates. We have a lot of work to do. By the end of the day, 12 human ships had joined their small fleet. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber buzzed with anxious conversation from dozens of species representatives. Ambassador Velnara stood at the central podium, her silver skin slightly pale. The human ships have now conducted operations in 4 different sectors, she reported, all against pirate or criminal targets, all without authorization. This is unacceptable, shouted a Hixarian delegate. They act like vigilantes. They ignore our laws and procedures. Their procedures work, another voice called out. It was Ambassador Krell, representing the Margoni Trade Federation. Our ships have been attacked by pirates for 3 years. 3 years of council committees and investigations. The humans end the attacks in 3 days. That is beside the point, Velnara argued, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. We cannot allow individual species to conduct military operations without oversight. It creates chaos. The pirates created chaos, Krell shot back. The humans created safety. My people's cargo ships are traveling routes again that were considered too dangerous last week. Human patrols make that possible. The debate raged for hours. Some species demanded the humans be stopped and punished. Others quietly admitted they wished their own people had shown such courage. All of them recognized that something fundamental had shifted in how galactic security worked. Meanwhile, the humans kept working. A human freighter crew named the Lucky Dragon reached a prison station where captured civilians were held before being sold as slaves. The crew had no military training. They had welding torches, mining charges, and absolute determination. They cut through the station's hull in 3 places simultaneously, stormed inside through the breaches, and freed 47 prisoners from 6 different species. The operation took 11 minutes from breach to escape. The slavers never knew what hit them. Another group of human ships found a smuggling operation running weapons to pirate groups. The smugglers operated from a hidden station in a nebula, thinking they were invisible. The human engineer, named Sarah Kim, figured out how to track their ion trails through the nebula's interference. Once located, Captain Lisa Park simply rammed her heavy cargo hauler through the station's docking bay at full speed, then backed out before the smugglers could react. The station depressurized. The smugglers evacuated in escape pods. The weapons were destroyed. Total human casualties, 0. Total operation time, 7 minutes. Park received reports of each operation. Humans were spreading across 4 sectors, hitting every criminal target they could find. Each operation was different. Each one improvised. Each one succeeded through sheer human stubbornness and refusal to accept that something was impossible. "Sir, pirate activity has dropped by 30% across our operating area," Lee reported, showing him the statistics. "Trade ship attacks are down 45%. And we are getting messages from other species thanking us." Park nodded, but his expression was troubled. "We are winning battles, but we are also making enemies. The Council sees us as disrupting their authority. Eventually, they will have to respond." He was right. The response came in the worst possible way. Zarthok, the Kravathi pirate lord, had escaped the destruction of his main fortress. He fled to a secondary base with what remained of his fleet, his pride wounded and his reputation destroyed. The galaxy laughed at how 5 human ships had defeated his forces. Other pirates whispered that the mighty Zarthok had been beaten by creatures barely older than children in galactic terms. He needed to restore fear. He needed to prove that challenging him had consequences. His ships descended on a small human colony world called New Eden. The settlement held 3,000 people, mostly families trying to build new lives farming on a frontier world. They had minimal defenses because they never expected to need them. This was supposed to be safe space, protected by council treaties. The pirates landed and took 500 colonists hostage. Zarthok sent his message to every human ship and every council station. "The human attacks end now, or these prisoners die. You have 72 hours. Pull back your ships. Stop your operations, or I start executing 1 hostage every hour." Park watched the message with cold fury. Around him, his crew sat in shocked silence. "He took families," Lee said quietly. "There are children among those hostages." Park's hands clenched into fists. This was escalation beyond anything they had prepared for. This was a pirate lord gambling that the Council would force humans to back down rather than let civilians die. Zarthok was betting on bureaucracy and procedure winning over human determination. The communication system lit up with urgent messages from Council headquarters. Ambassador Velnara's face appeared on the screen, her 3 eyes filled with concern. "Captain Park, the Council demands you cease all operations immediately. Zarthok's action is a direct result of your unauthorized activities. You must withdraw and let proper authorities handle this." "Proper authorities," Park repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "The same authorities who have done nothing for 3 years? The same authorities who told me to wait 6 months while people died? This is different. Velnara insisted. "He has hostages. If you continue operations, those people will die. The Council is prepared to negotiate for their release through proper diplomatic channels." Park looked at his crew. He saw the anger in their eyes, the determination. He saw people who understood that backing down now meant every pirate in the galaxy would start taking hostages. It meant fear wins and evil succeeds because good people were too afraid to act. He turned back to the screen. "Tell the Council they can handle this however they want, but humanity will not stop. We will not negotiate. We will not back down." Velnara looked horrified. "You are sentencing those hostages to death." "No," Park said coldly. "Zarthok sentenced them. He just made a fatal mistake. He made it personal. Now we do not stop until every last pirate base is destroyed and he is dead or captured." He cut the communication channel and turned to his crew. "Send the message to every human ship. Every single one. We are going to New Eden. We are getting those people back. And we are going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human families." 30 human ships gathered in the space outside New Eden's star system. They came from every sector, every trade route, and every corner where humans worked. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, and aging patrol craft. None of them were warships. All of them were ready to fight. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the makeshift Justice, looking at the tactical display. Zarthok's fortress station was built into a moon orbiting New Eden. Sensors showed heavy shields, point defense systems, and enough firepower to destroy a proper military fleet. The hostages were held in the station's core, surrounded by layers of armor and defenses. Galactic military experts broadcast their analysis across every news network. 90% human casualties if they attacked directly. Maybe higher. The fortress was simply too strong. "So we do not attack directly," Park said to his assembled ship captains via communication link. "What else can we do?" Wright asked from the Iron Will. "We cannot tunnel through a moon like we did with asteroids." "Why not?" Engineer Kim spoke up, his face appearing on the screen. "Give me the Iron Will, 3 other mining ships, and some cargo haulers to provide cover. I can get us inside." "That is insane," Chen said, but she was smiling. "I love it. What is the plan?" Kim pulled up detailed scans of the moon. "The fortress is built into the surface, but the moon itself is mostly rock and ice. We drill from the opposite side, tunnel through, and come up underneath their defenses. They watch space. We come from underground." "That will take days," someone protested. "No," Kim said confidently. "It will take 11 hours if we push the equipment hard, which I will, obviously." Lee worked her tactical station. "We need a distraction. Something big enough to keep all their attention focused on space while the drilling teams work." Park nodded slowly. An idea formed. A crazy, dangerous, perfectly human idea. "We make them think we have a super weapon. Something scary enough that they have to focus everything on it." Within 6 hours, the plan came together. It was not a good plan by normal standards. It was barely a plan at all. But it was human, which meant it relied on improvisation, misdirection, and absolute confidence that they could solve problems as they appeared. The cargo ship, Steady Progress, became the centerpiece. Chen's crew welded extra hull plating to make it look heavier. They mounted fake weapons and added broadcasting equipment that made the ship's sensor signature read like something 10 times larger. The improvised superweapon looked impressive on sensors, even if it was actually a cargo hauler with delusions of grandeur. "Everyone ready?" Park asked. 30 voices confirmed across the communication channel. "Then let us show them what happens when you threaten human families." The Steady Progress jumped into New Eden space broadcasting signals that identified it as Earth's newest dreadnought. The fortress station's sensors immediately locked on. Zarthok's voice came over all frequencies, hissing with anger and fear. "Humans! You dare bring a warship here? I will execute the hostages right now." "No, you will not," Park replied calmly. "Because if you do, we will turn that fortress into dust. But if you release them, we might let you live." It was a bluff. The steady progress could not destroy anything. But Zarthok did not know that. All his sensors showed a massive human warship pointing weapons at his station. Every pirate defense system activated, focusing on the fake threat. While they watched the fake dreadnought, 4 mining ships approached the moon from the opposite side. Kim coordinated their drilling with precision. 4 massive drills punched into rock and ice, driving deep into the moon's interior. The equipment screamed from strain, running at 200% of rated capacity. Kim ignored every safety warning and pushed harder. "Tunnel stable," he reported, proceeding to Phase 2. Inside the fortress, Zarthok divided his attention between the human ship in space and his hostages. He kept sensors focused outward, never thinking to check beneath him. Why would he? Nobody attacked from underground. The drilling teams worked for 9 hours. They hit obstacles and drilled through them. They found unstable rock and reinforced it with quick-setting foam. When one drill overheated and died, they rerouted and kept going. Every problem got solved with improvisation and determination. At hour 10, they broke through into a maintenance tunnel beneath the fortress. "We are in," Kim reported. "Starting infiltration." 20 humans entered the tunnel. They carried welding tools, mining charges, and whatever weapons they could improvise. Lieutenant Su-Min Lee led the team, moving fast through the maintenance passages. They used the fortress's own layout against it, navigating through power conduits and life support systems. A pirate guard spotted them. Lee's team did not hesitate. They flooded the corridor with foam from fire suppression equipment, blinding the guard, then knocked him unconscious with a piece of pipe. Professional tactics meant nothing when opponents fought with whatever came to hand. The team split up, moving toward multiple objectives. Kim's group headed for the power core. Lee's team went for the hostages. A third group targeted the fortress defense grid. In the command center, Zarthok suddenly received alarms. "Intruders in Sector 7! No! Sector 12! They are inside the station!" "Impossible!" his second-in-command shouted. "How did they get past our sensors?" "Because you watched space and we came from below," Kim said cheerfully over the station's communication system. He had reached the power core and plugged into the main computer. Surprise! Chaos erupted throughout the fortress. Kim overloaded power conduits, causing lights to flicker and systems to fail. Lee's team blew through 3 walls with mining charges, taking the most direct route to the hostages regardless of architectural plans. The defense grid team fed false sensor data into the system, making the pirates think they were being attacked from every direction. Lee reached the hostage chamber. Zarthok himself guarded the door with 10 heavily armed pirates. They expected negotiations or careful tactics. Instead, 3 walls exploded simultaneously as mining charges detonated. Flash charges filled the room with blinding light and deafening sound. Smoke grenades created total confusion. In the chaos, Lee's team moved through like they had practiced this 1,000 times, even though they were making it up as they went. "Hostages, stay down!" Lee shouted. "Everyone else, you have 1 chance to surrender." The pirates, blinded and confused, dropped their weapons. Zarthok tried to run. A human engineer tripped him with a piece of conduit, then sat on him until others could secure him with cargo straps. 4 minutes after breaching the chamber, every hostage was free and moving toward the tunnels. "All teams, withdraw," Park ordered. "Kim, what is the status of that power core?" "Oh, it is going to explode," Kim said casually. "I set it to overload about 10 minutes ago. We should probably leave." "How long do we have?" 15 minutes, maybe 12. Engineering is more art than science." The evacuation became a controlled rush. Teams guided hostages through the tunnels they had drilled. Pirates tried to follow, but humans kept blocking passages with collapsed rock and sealed doors. The fortress systems went crazy as power fluctuations cascaded through every system. Zarthok screamed orders over his communication system. "All ships, launch! Abandon the fortress!" The pirate fleet scattered, ships fleeing in every direction. None of them wanted to be near the station when its power core exploded. Park watched from the makeshift Justice as the last humans and hostages cleared the moon's surface. "Kim, status?" "5 minutes. Everyone is clear. You might want to back up a little." The human fleet jumped to safe distance. The fortress station's power core reached critical mass. The explosion lit up the moon's surface, visible from 3 star systems away. The entire fortress disappeared in a ball of fire that carved a crater into the moon itself. Park activated the galaxy-wide communication channel. "This is Captain Jinwoo Park to all pirates, slavers, and criminals. This is what happens when you threaten human families. This is why you should have left us alone. If you prey on innocent people, we will find you. If you take hostages, we will free them. If you think hiding makes you safe, remember we tunneled through a moon." He paused, letting his words reach every corner of the galaxy. "The Council wanted proper channels and procedures. We gave you action and results. Choose wisely who you threaten, because humans do not stop. Ever." Ambassador Velnara watched the broadcast from Council headquarters. Around her, representatives from 40 species sat in stunned silence. The humans had just achieved the impossible through methods so unconventional they bordered on insanity. "They tunneled through a moon," someone whispered. "They made a cargo ship look like a dreadnought," another added. "They freed 500 hostages with 0 casualties." Velnara realized the galaxy had changed. The humans had proven something terrifying and wonderful. When properly motivated, when protecting their own, humans simply did not recognize the word impossible. 3 months passed. The galaxy transformed in ways nobody predicted. Pirate activity dropped 70% across all monitored sectors. Criminal syndicates abandoned their bases in human-patrolled space. Slave markets shut down or moved to the furthest edges of known territory. The phrase, "the humans are coming," became the nightmare that woke pirate captains in cold sweats. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been considered too dangerous for years. They traveled in loose groups, never following predictable patterns, always ready to respond to distress calls. When pirates attacked anyone, human or not, human vessels appeared within hours, sometimes minutes. The response was never gentle, it was never by the book, it was always effective. Captain Jinwoo Park stood in the shuttle bay of a council station, adjusting his dress uniform. He had been officially summoned to appear before the full Galactic Council to answer for unauthorized military operations, violation of established protocols, and creating instability through unilateral action. The charges carried serious penalties, including permanent ban from council space. Lieutenant Su-Min Lee stood beside him, also in dress uniform. "You ready for this?" "Not even a little bit," Park admitted. "But when has that ever stopped us?" They walked through the station corridors toward the council chamber. Other species stepped aside, watching them with a mixture of respect and fear. These were the humans who tunneled through moons, who turned cargo ships into weapons, who refused to accept that anything was impossible. The council chamber doors opened. Park and Lee entered to find every seat filled. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy watched them approach. The room hummed with tension. Ambassador Velnara stood at the central podium, her 3 eyes focused on Park. "Captain Jinwoo Park, you stand before this council to answer for actions taken without authorization over the past 3 months. How do you respond?" Park walked to the speaking platform. He did not look nervous or apologetic. He looked like a man who had nothing to regret. I respond that I did what needed to be done, he said clearly. The council had evidence of pirate attacks, evidence of slavery, of murder, of innocent people dying. The council chose committees and investigations. I chose action. You violated every established protocol, a Hicksarian delegate shouted. You acted without proper authority. I acted without permission, Park corrected. But I had all the authority I needed. The authority of knowing right from wrong. The authority of people dying while you debated. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species demanded punishment. Others remained silent, remembering that their own trade ships were safe now because humans had acted. Velnara raised her hand for silence. The Council recognizes these operations achieved results. However, we cannot simply ignore violations of procedure. If every species acted independently, there would be chaos. There already was chaos, Park said firmly. Pirates creating chaos while you maintained order in this chamber. I chose to stop the chaos that actually mattered. Ambassador Krell from the Margoni Trade Federation stood. I wish to speak. The chamber quieted. Krell had remained neutral through most debates, but his species controlled significant trade influence. 3 months ago, my people lost an average of 4 ships per week to pirate raids. 4 ships, 40 crew members, every single week. He looked around the chamber. The council investigated. The council formed committees. The council debated proper responses. My people kept dying. Then the humans acted. In 3 months, we have lost 0 ships to piracy in human-patrolled space. 0. That is beside the point, the Hicksarian delegate protested. It is exactly the point. Krell's voice rose. The Council's purpose is to protect member species. When we failed at that purpose, the humans succeeded. They did not ask permission because permission would have taken months we did not have. They saw people dying and they acted. That should be commended, not condemned. Velnara looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Krell, surely you see the danger in allowing unauthorized military action? I see greater danger in preventing action that saves lives, Krell responded. The humans have proven something important. Sometimes perfect procedure leads to perfectly preventable deaths. More voices joined the debate. The chamber divided sharply. Species that had suffered pirate attacks supported the humans. Species that valued procedure above all else demanded punishment. Neither side would yield. Finally, an elderly delegate from the Corthian species stood. She was one of the council's founders, respected by all. Enough, she said quietly, but her voice carried authority. This debate misses the real question. Not whether the humans violated procedure, but whether our procedures failed their purpose. The chamber went silent. She continued. We created these procedures to prevent hasty action that causes harm, but our procedures became so slow that inaction caused greater harm. The humans showed us this truth. They did not ask permission because asking permission had become an excuse for doing nothing. She looked at Park. Captain Park, your methods were reckless, dangerous, unconventional to the point of chaos. Park nodded. Yes, they were. They were also necessary, she finished. The council failed. You did not. However, we cannot simply allow any species to act independently whenever they feel justified. That path leads to true chaos. She turned to address the full chamber. I propose a new doctrine, the rapid response provision. When clear threats exist, when evidence is present, when lives are at stake, authorized forces may act immediately. Not after committees, not after months of debate, immediately, with proper reporting and oversight, but without waiting for permission that comes too late to matter. The chamber erupted again, but this time the debate felt different. Species were actually discussing solutions instead of just arguing positions. Velnara looked at Park with something like respect. You have put us in an impossible position, Captain. We cannot reward your violation of protocols. but we cannot deny that your actions saved lives and exposed our failures. I did not do it for reward or recognition, Park said. I did it because it needed to be done. Because when the council said, wait for proper channels, people were dying in those channels. The vote on the rapid response provision took hours. When the results came, they surprised everyone. The provision passed with 63% support. The galaxy had not adopted human chaos, but they had learned from it. Velnara approached Park after the session ended. You realize what you have started? Other species will form rapid response teams. They will model human methods. The galaxy will become more unpredictable. More responsive, Park corrected. More willing to act when action matters. Is that really so bad? I do not know, Velnara admitted. But I do know this. You taught the galaxy an uncomfortable lesson. That sometimes procedures exist to make us feel orderly while the world burns. Thank you for that, even though I hate admitting it. Park returned to the makeshift Justice, where his crew waited. Engineer Kim had the ship running despite damage that should have required dock time. Lee had already plotted their next patrol route. Chen and Wright were coordinating with other human vessels for convoy protection. So, Lee asked, are we criminals or heroes? Neither, Park said. We are just people who did what needed to be done. The Council passed the rapid response provision, Lee noted. Other species are forming quick reaction teams. The Margoni just commissioned 3 rapid response squadrons. Good, Park said. Maybe next time innocent people are threatened, they will not wait for us to shame them into action. He looked at his crew. These people who had risked everything without hesitation, who had followed him into impossible situations and found ways to win, who represented the best of what humanity could be when properly motivated. New distress call just came in, Chen reported over communication. Freighter under attack 2 systems away. Pirates. They are asking if any human ships are nearby. Park smiled. Set course. Maximum speed. The engines will not like that, Kim warned. They never do. We will fix them if they break. That is the human way, Lee said with a grin. The makeshift Justice jumped to hyperspace, chasing another call for help. Behind them, the galaxy continued adapting to lessons learned from humans who refused to accept that proper channels mattered more than lives. In council chambers, in military academies, in command centers across 40 species, a new doctrine took shape. The human doctrine, they called it. The idea that sometimes rules must bend for justice to prevail. That perfect procedure means nothing if good people die while waiting for it. That action, even imperfect action, beats perfect inaction every time. Ambassador Velnara watched ships depart on rapid response missions. Vessels that 3 months ago would have waited for authorization now acted immediately when threats appeared. The galaxy had become more chaotic, more unpredictable, more willing to bend rules. It had also become safer. She thought about Captain Park's final words before leaving. Someday, you will say those words again. Fine, we will do it ourselves. When that day comes, you will understand why humans never wait for permission to do what is right. 3 months later, when Korthian pirates attacked Margoni colonies, Velnara watched her own people's rapid response team launch without waiting for council approval. They moved fast, improvised tactics, and freed hostages within 6 hours. As she watched them work, using methods that looked suspiciously human, she found herself whispering the words, "Fine, we will do it ourselves." And for the first time, she understood exactly what Captain Park meant. Across the galaxy, those words became not a threat, but a promise. A promise that when evil acted, good people would respond. Not eventually, not after proper channels, but immediately, with determination, with improvisation, with that uniquely human refusal to accept that something was impossible just because nobody had done it before. The galaxy had not become human. but it had learned to think like humans when it mattered most, to act when action was needed, to embrace controlled chaos over perfect paralysis. Captain Park smiled as the makeshift Justice dropped out of hyperspace at the distress call location. The freighter was there, damaged but intact. Pirates circled like predators. They saw one aging human patrol ship and laughed. They had no idea what was about to happen. They never did. "Lieutenant Lee," Park said calmly, "show them what happens when humans say, 'Fine, we will do it ourselves.'" "With pleasure, Captain." The battle began. Just another day of humans doing what humans did best. Not because they had the best ships or the best weapons, but because they had something better. They had determination. They had each other. And they had learned that when you do the right thing, you do not ask permission first. You just do it.